to thank you for tuning in to the Wealth Exchange. I'm your man, Ed from Jackson, your licensed financial coach and your guide to kingdom wealth building. As always, thank you for tuning in on today's episode. If you've ever asked yourself the question, if you've ever said, I feel stuck, or I feel like I'm not pursuing the thing that God has called me to do, this is the episode you want to listen to. This is the episode you want to watch, because today we're going to dig in and we're going to talk about pursuing your passion. Now, to help me do that, I brought in a powerhouse in the motivational area. His name is Mensur Pudic, and Mensur is a motivational speaker. He helps people envision their goals and reach their passions and really just drive for what drives them in life. So I'm excited and honored to have him on today. You can catch him out on his website at www.simply-motivated.com to learn more about what he does. But I'm just so glad to have him on. So welcome Mensur to the show. Mensur, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you joining us, my man.
Hey, Ephraim, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. So,
no, this is awesome, man. This is good. You know, this is a powerful topic, this concept of purpose and pursuing your purpose, because I see so many people, man, they're really not going after what is on the inside of them. They go to jobs they hate on Monday, and then they teach their kids to do the exact same thing. They go cycle and repeat. So tell the people a little bit about your story and kind of why you got into, motivating people and trying to help people achieve their dreams.
so my story comes from, and we talked a little bit before. I'm originally from Bosnia. My parents came here. I came here in 1994 as an immigrant. Our people went through a genocide back home, and we were fortunate enough to escape and come here to Iowa, which at the time in 1994, Iowa was taking a big volume of refugees that were specifically coming from Bosnia, and I settled here. And, from a young age, I saw the opportunity and that the United States had, right? Just far as being able to have that American dream, being able to think big and being able to devote your time, your skills, your energy into schooling or passion or whatever it is that you have. As soon as I grasped that, looking back at how hard my parents worked, what they were able to build, the encouragement that they had, I had a vision and I wanted it to fulfill my vision, and I hit the ground running. I'm living in one of the best places on the planet, and I wanted it to make sure that I embraced it and, I followed my true passion and purpose in life.
Right. So you use some of your hardship in coming over here to America, being refugees, to help fuel your passion and go after what you feel is in your heart. So why do you think so many people struggle with passion and actually going after it? Is it a fear thing? Is it a comfort thing? Why do people struggle with this?
So fear and comfort is definitely some of the things. Another thing is how people are programmed, right?
Mm.
We're all programmed a certain way, and people really don't think about that. They don't understand that. But there are so many things that come at us, right? We watch the news, we see different things, we experience different things,
Right.
and it kind of programs us as humans on how we act, how we react, what we think about ourselves, what do we think internally about ourselves and externally, right? And there's a lot of conflicts there where people they follow the same pattern, same programming, and they get the same result. And the reason is because they have that routine that brings them to that result. And I step in and I work with my clients and I try to find that gap of what that gap is and to change their reprogramming. Because if you change the reprogramming it with repetition and some things that I have them do, it helps them focus on what is their passion and what is it that they really want to do. Because once you light that fire, they're going to live from the inside out instead of from the outside in. And that's point of knowing what your purpose is. That way you can chase it. And you got to have that right people behind you, and you got to definitely believe in yourself. And a lot of people say I believe in myself. They really don't, because their
Mm.
program kicks back in, and the more they think about it, they talk themselves out of what they want to do.
Right, man, that is good, man. So you see, anytime anybody comes on and to do this podcast with me, I got to stop them when they drop these little nuggets like that, because you just said something that was powerful, and I can let that go without repeating that. So you just said people are programmed a certain way, and that programming almost makes them not go for the greatness that's on the inside of them. So we gotta spend a few more seconds there, man, because that was too good. So if you're programmed, because that programming can come from where? Can that come from what? Like your family, your past? Where does that programming come from? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
So program comes from everything, right? From the time that we're probably age 5, everything that's external has kind of been programmed in our subconscious mind, right? So we have the conscious mind, and that's the stuff that we're aware of. We're aware of what we see on the TV and the newspaper, what we might read for that present time. But that's not really what triggers us to act, because we all have feelings, we all have emotions. Now, those are the driving factors. And sometimes when you see something you like, or you're really passionate, there's something in your subconscious mind that makes you think like that. And we have to bring it to the conscious mind so we have that understanding. Now, if you look at it, for example, I'll take my own experience here. I kept going to school. I got my associate, I got my bachelor's, I got my
Mhm.
master's degree, but I was never happy. I was exploring the outside world because I was always taught and always believed in, if you get your education, or if you get this, you're going to get that good paying job and you're going to get this. Now, I've been fortunate enough where I've been able to fulfill that. But the thing is my mindset was different than an average. And the reason is I kept adapting, I kept learning, and as soon as I tapped in and I figured out, okay, how am I programmed? Why am I programmed that way? And some things it's just that, the people that we're sitting with, the conversations that they're having, that negativity, even though people don't think about it, it goes in their subconscious mind, and then that's what they retrieve without them even knowing on it, because they're not in that, they're not focused, and they don't have that awareness. If
Right.
they don't have that, they don't know what their problem is, and if they don't know what that problem is, they don't know how to rewrite that program and continue actually chasing what it is that they really want.
So
So
you can be around people that could be the problem that's helping to go to that programming. It could be your environment. It could be all these factors. But it sounds like you're saying you might not even be aware that these things are programming you a certain way.
So yeah, so I always tell people to think about, some music that you listen to, right? Every time you listen to that music, it might give you a different thought, right? Now, what happens is everything starts with a thought. It starts with that idea. You have that idea, which creates that feeling or creates an emotion for you, and that emotion, that's all on the subconscious level. That creates the action that you're going to take or you're not going to take, and that controls the result that you either get or you don't get. And that's something that I work strictly with clients one on one to figure what that is. Because once you get them unstuck from that, you can change the frequency of how is that their brain is really thinking and how is it operating. And then you can kind of find out what those gaps are, what those programs are. And we're all programmed. We go
Mm.
to sleep at the same time, we wake up at the same time. We do things that are within that program, and we're getting the results that we don't want. That's why people get frustrated. That's why people quit. That's why people don't know what the heck's going on. I'm doing everything right, but it's those
Mhm.
programs that automatically kick in that they don't catch, that kind of throw them off balance, and they don't produce or get the result that they want.
You
So
know, that's so true, man. Because I think back to my own life, right? You talked about going to school, and I find because I do deal with finances here, and I see so many people. For example, they pursue money as for happiness versus after actually chasing after maybe what they really want to do. And I did the same thing when I went to college. I went to Iowa State, and when I first went to Iowa State, I wanted to be an engineer. I didn't know what engineering was. I didn't think engineering. I knew nothing about. All I knew about was I asked the guidance counselor. I remember this too. I was like, "Who makes the most money when I graduate?" So they were like, "Oh, engineers. They make this much money when they graduate." I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna be an engineer." So I did 2 years of trying to be an engineer, failing every class I possibly could fail in engineering, before it finally hit me that this was not what I was supposed to be doing. It's not where I was bent. I eventually switched to business and got all A's and aced it and graduated out. But I remember taking 2 years of my life trying to be something and force something that I wasn't, because I was pre-programmed, like you were kind of saying, chase after the money, chase after this instead of chasing after, what was actually on the inside. So I just wanted to back up to that again, man, because especially with finances, I see that so much. People are just chasing and pursuing their programming of, oh, this is success, this is this, go do this, but yet there's something on the inside of them that they're completely ignoring. So that's so good.
So I want to tap into that a little bit from my cultural background. Parents always push, you need education. Education's great.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you need education. I
Yeah.
always tell people education will open up those blocks and avenues in your brain that you wouldn't have unless you've done it, and your experience can only take you far as you know.
Yeah.
So you definitely wanna reprogram yourself by getting more education, understanding things, because that's gonna kind of uh, dismiss that program for a little bit, where you're going to think about things differently than you thought before. because you're giving yourself a chance to kind of put that in
Mm-hmm.
your subconscious mind. And a lot of people and a lot of friends that I had, their parents kept pushing them, go for pharmacy, go for a doctor, go
Yeah.
for this. And
Yeah.
I tell the kids, I'm like, listen, you have to find out what you want to go for and what your purpose is. Because if you chase and you go do what they want you to do, eventually it will come back to you and you're going to want to quit. It's going to exhaust you. You're not going to be happy because it isn't your passion. It isn't something that's inside you. And that's what you have to work on to find out what it is truly that's inside you, because that's going to be that fire that's going to want to take you to the next level.
Yeah.
You want to be satisfied with what it is that you exactly want to do, and not what everybody else. And the reason why they tell you is go for this or go for that, it's because that's all they know. That's
Mhm.
their program kicking in, and they're telling you just because you
Right.
go get a doctorate degree, that doesn't mean that you're going to be rich. You might be in debt. Now there are some doctors that make money, but there's also salespeople that make more money than doctors. It's
Mm.
like, that shouldn't be your main focus. It should be your passion, because once you have that passion, money will come with your passion.
And I've met some miserable doctors. I've met some people that had money. In financial planning, I've met, a lot of my clients were millionaires, and I've met people that were complete, just totally unhappy, tons of money, but they weren't happy. But you hit on something about the parents and about how, because a lot of people listening to me, they're probably in their 30s and 40s, so they have kids right now. And I want to drive home what you just said, because that was one of the same thing that happened to me. And it wasn't that my parents came out and said, "Hey, I expect X, X, and X," but it was a subconscious thing. It was like over the years, I'm like, "Oh, I got to make sure I get this certain degree. I got to make sure I make this much money when I come out." And so it's almost like you're disappointing them if you choose to do something else, right? So I remember talking about that at a sermon that I did, and just something along the effects of, I said that we go through as adults this adult life, right? Unhappy with the choices that we've made and not taking risks, and then yet we turn around and teach our children to do the exact same thing, expecting a different result for them than what we got. So what would you say to somebody who has that passion on the inside of them? They know they're not living I call it living your truth, right? I think everybody, God puts a certain truth on inside of us, and certain people aren't living their truth. If you're not living your truth, how do you go and start to try to make those steps to figure out what that truth is? I've even had people say, "I don't even know what my purpose is, or I don't even know how to start finding it." So, well, how would you tell a person to even start finding it?
So the thing is your purpose, and you'll find out what your purpose is. I always tell people, try to sit still, right? You got
Mm,
to find things that you really like, things that you're passionate about, things, for example, that might keep you up at night, right?
mm,
I've always had a vision. I wanted it to be successful, and it's something um, that I've never lost focus of it, right? It was in me, but it's like, what
mm,
is my true passion? Well, people. But what is it about people? What makes me happy on the inside? Well, we all want to succeed, and I love seeing people succeed. And there's nothing more important than guiding them to the end result, to the success that they want to see, right? By using my experience, using my skills, asking them certain questions, using their experience, because it's not about directing them and saying, I want you to be this, to do this. No, I want you to pull it out of you, and then everything else will work itself out on what it is that you want to do, because that passion is internal and nobody knows it but you.
yeah.
Now, things to focus on, right? If you look at athletes example, well, what do athletes do? They're around other athletes.
Mm,
Why?
yeah.
Because those athletes have that same mindset, right? So if you want to be in a particular business, let's say radio business or do podcasts or whatever it is, you have to surround yourself that with people that have that passion, because when people have that passion, you're more open to them.
They
You're
bring it
more
out of
welcoming to them. Exactly. You're gonna be able to bounce ideas. You're not gonna feel like a foreigner to them, or you're not gonna feel that you really can't talk to them. You're gonna feel that environment where I can relate to this person. And sometimes I tell people, how do you get people to open up to you? If you're listening when somebody's talking and you just tell them, tell me more, they're gonna have this understanding and this emotion that, okay, this person really cares about me, let me open up to them, and
you.
in return people open up to you. So that's a big one. You got to have the people around you in
Right.
your
The right
circle.
people around you. That's key.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I used to have friends that they'd laugh. I'd tell them I do this, and they'd laugh, and I'm like, I don't understand why they're laughing, but It's again, it's their programming and the
Mm,
insecurities that they have inside them. They're great people, but it's those insecurities or things that they have inside them that's controlling them, and they don't even know. But at the end of the day, I still stayed focused. So
mm,
that kind of brings me to my second thing that I want to talk about is those goals, that vision, right? What you want to do. I always tell people you want to write it down.
yeah.
That's just how our brains work. And some people are like, oh, it's just writing it down. That doesn't do anything to me. It does. In long term, what you do is you want to reprogram yourself, right? You got to believe in what it is that you really want. Once you write it down, you're a step closer. And then if you repeat it to yourself, what you're doing is you're putting it into your subconscious level. That's going to drive you to the next steps, to the next people, to
Mm,
explore something different that you haven't done before. But every time you do that, you're getting a step closer to
right.
your objective, to your end result that you want to see.
No, that's so good, man. I always say that, when I talk about purpose, because a lot of people are always shocked when I talk about purpose in my financial classes. I usually take the whole first week or two, and we're just talking about purpose. And they're like, "What are you talking about? I came here to learn about investing and budgeting and all this other stuff." I say, "We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But I got to get you to understand your purpose first and your why, because when I get to the money and all these different things and tell you the different things you need to do, you're not going to either one, be motivated enough to keep doing those things if your why isn't big enough. You're just going to forget it. Or number two, I'm not interested in coaching and doing financial planning with people that don't know their why. If they're just going to be like everybody else out here, just kind of, I want to make a bunch of money just for me. So that's the part of the reason that I kind of emphasize that so much. But you said some really, really interesting things I want to hit back on here. Number one, having the right people around you. I think that's key. Writing it down. And these are all biblical, godly principles. There's verses in scripture that talk about write the vision and make it plain. There's verses that talk about that people perish for lack of vision, and then people just basically die if they don't have any vision on the inside of them. But what I want to do, I want to hit you with some objections to this that I get from people. I just want to hear your comments, because these are
Okay.
common objections that I get from people when I talk to them about pursuing what God has called them to do. Here's the number one I usually get: I don't have the time. What would you tell a person that says I don't have the time?
They don't have the
Too
time
busy
to.
with life. Like I got a job, I got my kids. I would love to do this, but I'm taking care of other things right now, and I just don't have the time. I have responsibilities that I have to take care of. What would you say to someone saying that?
Next time somebody tells you that, I'd like you to ask them, do you have the ability to make a choice? If they
Ooh,
tell you yes, and you know
getting all
what,
in their face, Mitch. I like it.
you start that one. Do you have the ability to make a choice?
Yeah.
Now, if they say yes, now ask them, how is it that you can make time for the company? You're going to work for a job for a company. They have goals, they have end results they want to meet. They programmed you to get to those results, and you don't even know it.
Mm,
So if they're coming with these excuses and everything else, the one of the biggest reasons is they're returning back to their program, and they're telling you
woo,
everything that's saved in their bank
so
and they're
good.
going to feel quick, but they haven't sat down to think about what is really their purpose.
Mm,
What does it really make them, what makes them happy? And if they tapped into that, and you said the why, which I love that you said that. It's the foundation like of a house, right?
exactly.
That why, you have to have that, or you can't build anywhere from that. The thing is when you build a house, that infrastructure is also important. You have that foundation, and when you know that why, you can kind of anticipate what kind of roadblocks you might have, and that's where a
Mm,
lot of people get um, distressed, and they bounce back, or they don't feel like they can do it, and that auto program kicks in back again, because they don't know how to go over those, or what's causing that feeling, that emotion, and they can't break through that. And I call that a block barrier. They
mm,
can't like break through it because they don't understand what's causing it, right? And that's
yeah.
one of those things that it's great to know why, but then again, you want to ask people what. Because if you think why, you're always going to the past. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why did I do this? The only thing what you're really doing is you're putting it in your head, and you're trying to recollect something that you've learned. That's what you learned as a program. Now, you can watch TV and react to something that might not even be true,
Mm,
but you just reacted to it because you're so used to hearing it that you don't even think about it, and you're reacting to a campaign, a presidential campaign. It might not even be true, and the media decided to put it out there,
right.
but they have you right where they want you in that program. So knowing the why is an absolute, but then asking what. When you ask somebody, what will you do next? Where will you go? what's
Mhm.
the biggest thing that you want to accomplish. What you're doing is you're kind of tapping in that subconscious mind again, and you're getting them to think on evolving, right? Growing,
Right.
getting somewhere farther. Well, that farther is going to tap into things, resources, people, books, videos, whatever it might be. It's going to get them to tap into something different than they already knew before from that program.
Right.
And that kind of changes their thinking, their behavior, their habits,
It's
and
really
it makes
renewing their
sense.
mind. You got to get a new mindset about these things, because I love what you said about they run back to their programming. It's almost like a comfort blanket. I got 4 kids, so I know about those comfort blankets, because they'll grab them as soon as they're scared. They'll say, "Where's my blanket?" My daughter will go run and grab her binky and her passy. It's almost like that. It's like, I want to run back to this because it feels safe. It's what I know, and it's what I've been told, and it feels comforting. And almost a damage to your psyche to try to step outside and do something different, because that's all you've known for so long. But I want to get you another one here. I love that one. So that's the one I get a lot. I get that one a lot. I don't have the time. This is the next one I get a lot. I'm too old to now go after it. I'm too old. That's a young person's game. I should have done it if I was going to do it 20, 30 years ago, but my time has passed. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep doing what I'm doing and just keep living this life that I live. That's another one that I get all the time. What would you say to those people?
So people use a time as a barrier, right? I'm
Yeah,
too old to do this. Well, if you love teaching, are you really too old to do it? The answer
yeah,
is no. You can empower other people or show other people how to teach, or how to show other people, how to build a house, how to stay motivated. So there's still options that you can do out there. And with technology these days, you
mm,
can be old, you can be young, you can be, whatever. You can look things up on YouTube, right? If you don't have that experience how to run technology, let's say a cell phone, if you go into Verizon or if you go into any cell phone place, I guarantee you somebody will show it to you. And yes, it might be harder for you to learn those certain steps because they're going fast. But remember, they've
yeah,
been programmed because they're playing with those phones every single day. But if you
right,
devote your time, and instead of thinking, I don't have time to do this, you need to find things that are going to encourage you to do it.
yeah,
And if it's your true passion, there's something called, and humans have this, it's called intuition. When you tap into that purpose, that intuition will kick in for you, that awareness will kick in for you. You won't have time to be busy, to be thinking about the programs that you have, because you're going to be focused on what you need to do next. You're going to
mm,
be focused on that end result. And like I said, you want positive people around you. You want to look at how have people done it that maybe are your age. How have they transitioned or done things that they didn't think they could do? And that's going back to, again, they believed that they could do it even though they might have not thought about it, or they
right.
found the right people to help them connect those dots, or give them a different scope of how to think, to kind of get them unstuck of that I don't have time mentality, where they get that traction, and
Right,
and
right.
then they're off. And just
And,
look
and
at
that's key, man. That's so good. Even people. I used to hear people say it all the time, as far as age, especially if I talk to people that are maybe. I've seen it happen with some clients of mine where because when you're doing financial planning, you tend to try to deal with wealthier clients, right? And so some of these were like senior executives. They've been at their companies a long time, making a ton of money. But then when you really start forming a relationship with them and a bond with them, you can tell they clearly are not happy with what they're doing. But they usually would say the same thing. Oh no, I've been at this company for 30 years. I don't have time to start over. I don't have time to do this over again. So I'm so glad that you said what you said, that there's always, regardless of how old you are, there's always a way to start. Even if you just take that first step, I believe God will meet you with the next step. If you step out and just take that first one, then those resources and things will come to you. Now everybody I always got to put my disclaimer here. I am not advocating people just leave their job or go or do whatever. So if you're listening to this, that is not clearly what I'm advocating. Obviously, take steps, do things properly, but just keep moving is the biggest thing. Here's the last one I want to ask you, because I get this one a lot too. That people will say, "Oh, I can't pursue what's on the inside of me. I can't really go after it because I don't have the money." Now, I'm a money guy, so I deal with finances a lot. Now, I usually have tons of answers for that one, but I just would love your perspective on if someone says, "I can't pursue what's on the inside of me. I can't pursue this business, this calling. Oh, I would love to go work with children or do whatever, but I can't because I can't. I don't have the money to pursue it. What would be your answer to that?
So when they tell you they don't have money, what does that make them concentrate on?
Hmm.
Saying that they don't have money, right? Well, if they have that mindset, who are they going to reach out to that they can ask, hey,
Yeah.
are there loans out there? Are there programs with the state that you can get, funding, resources where they can tell you you can do
Mhm.
X, Y, Z, and you can make some money, and then you can grow your business, right? And sometimes it's not about money, it's about your connections,
Yeah.
right? Some people might spend 20, 50, $100,000 to open up a business, and somebody might have those connections where they don't need that amount to open up the business because they have a streamlined process. So saying we don't have the money, you don't want to focus on that, because you're not that's the only focus you're going to have, and you're never
Mhm.
going to want to move forward from that, right? People have credit cards that tell you they don't have money. They have credit cards and they go out every single week and they will blow $100 a week on going to parties or whatever it might be. 4 weeks is $400. Now the thing is for $400, almost in any state in the United States, you can probably get your company name or
Yeah.
your business established for that $400. So it's like, you have the money. Where is it that you're really spending your
Mm.
money,
Yeah, that's
right?
so good.
So
That's so true, man. I love that you just said that. That lines up exactly with what I normally would tell people too. People, we waste so much money on things anyway, and then we come back and say why we can't pursue our dreams. That is the whole purpose for my ministry and what I do. Free to Serve is trying to free people from one these mentalities that you're speaking of. I can easily show you how to do a budget or to do some investing. It's the mentality part that you've been hitting on so key here today that you really got to be free from, because what, like you just said, if you think that you're already broke and you don't have it, then you will manifest. That is what you're going to be. The resources are there, but once you change the mindset of saying, I don't currently have the resources to do X, how do I go find the resources to do X, or how do I find someone to connect me to the very different mindset, very different conversation here, man. So man, this is really good, man. I mean, we could keep talking about this forever. I don't want to keep, I know you're busy, man. I don't want to keep impeding upon your time. So I want to maybe close out with some key takeaways for today and for this conversation. For me, some key takeaways are some things that you mentioned. The biggest key takeaway is that programming. I love what you mentioned about that. That is the biggest key takeaway for me. And I want to ask everybody who's listening, everybody who's watching this video, ask yourself, how are you programmed? You may not know how you're programmed, but just start the conversation. How am I being programmed a certain way that's keeping me from being all that God has called me to be? So that is my key takeaway. What's your key takeaway for today, Vince?
So when I say programming, think about the process, procedures, and everything that you're following that somebody else has given you, right?
Mhm.
And you're doing it because it's somebody else giving you. But I wanted to touch on a topic, and I tell people, think about babies, right? First, you call the baby, and it takes about maybe a year for them to actually understand that you're calling them by the name that you're giving them.
Yeah.
So when babies are small, they start to wiggle around, the next thing you know, they're starting to crawl, then they want to get up. Now, they didn't have time, or they didn't have any money, but they had that intuition.
Yeah.
And what's happening is they picked up, they started to crawl, they got a little confidence, they're able to stand, then they start walking, then they start jumping. And by 5, they pretty much programmed themselves on what it is that they can get away with, what can they touch, are their parents going to yell at them? So those are the programs, and most everything's designed by the age of 5. Now, what happens is the older we get and the more time we're exposed to the outside environment, the more programming impacts us. It's harder for us to disconnect ourselves and dig deep and start believing in ourselves, because sometimes we don't even know what's going on. Is this true? But it has an effect on us, right? And it has an effect on our programs, and then it has an effect on our behavior, on our emotions, and that always leads to your result. And I always tell people, if you look at your end result, you're not making enough money, you're not happy, you have to figure out, if you know that's your end result, there's an emotion or a feeling that's tied to it that is making you get to that end result, right? You're not maybe making money because you're not actually chasing the job where you can grow, develop, and learn new skills, just being one example. So I want people to understand that we're all run under these programs. There's nothing wrong with it. It's
Mm.
being able to find out what it is that's really holding us back, understand why it's holding us back, and then start creating habits where we can reprogram ourselves, so we can develop new skills, so we can learn new skills, so we can reprogram ourselves, and reading books, watching motivational videos, surrounding ourselves with positive people. And
Yeah.
if you can find a person that you haven't talked to before, they will give you a different insight than somebody that you're always with, right?
Yeah, that's so good.
Those are and sometimes we got to reach out to different people. If you're in that same circle, you're going to have that same mentality as the group of your friends. And there's studies out there that if you hang out with people that with that same mindset, they're probably making the same amount of money because nobody else is being able to think outside that scope.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And that's funny because I was just getting ready to ask you about some practical things people can do. And you already kind of answered it right there. Get around some new people, read some new books, do some different things that they can do to start changing that mindset. So I just want to leave people with that too, that this is on the inside of them. This is there, but it is our responsibility. That's why I love when you talk about that. It's our responsibility to tap into what is inside of us and actually do the work to bring it out. So, man, I got to have you back, man. That was awesome. I loved having you on. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you again, Mentor. Can you leave the people maybe how they can get in contact with you and reach out with you if they want to talk more with you about what you do and just continue this conversation with you a little bit more? So can you tell the people how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to me right now is social media, right? Facebook, Instagram, you can go to simply-motivated.com. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me. And I'm grateful. I'm passionate about, what I'm doing. And you can probably tell when I kind of get amped up a little bit. It's something that's inside me that I always wanted it to make a difference. And I agree with you 100%. God has given us all the capabilities and he's put it inside us. And as humans, we evolve, we grow, we develop, and it's our job to find out what our goal, what our purpose is. And once we find out, we can tap into a source inside us that we never thought we had in us, and we can literally change lives, around the world with people, and make it better. And that's one of the things that I want to do with my company is going global, so I can help people out around the world. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And, I'm not letting COVID or any other external factors get in my way, because my mindset is, how do I help people?
Well, we need you, man. And if you can help people with this kind of conversation we had today, I guarantee you there's many people that need to hear this message and hear you deliver that message. So thank you again for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. So thank you.
Hey, Ephraim, thank you so much for having me and looking forward to coming on again with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, as always, I'm your man Ephraim Jackson with the Wealth Exchange. Thank you for watching and listening to this episode. Make sure you tune in to future episodes. Always remember, who the sun sets free is free indeed. Break every chain that binds you. Break your mental barriers as well and get free. Take care.